All right, recording in three, two, and one.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
Welcome to episode 249 of Nerdery Murdery.
Big 249. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeff here with your Murdery. Welcome to another week, the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, the nerd and the murd. I have had a busy couple of weeks.
Yeah?
Well, so last week, just give you all a peek behind the curtain. Last week, I traveled up to DFW and we got together
Yeah, you
all of
did.
our core gaming group and got together in the same room. In the same room for the first time, all six of us in 20 years. I've been around Zig forever, and I see him day in and day out. Keith, I see day in and day out. I talk to Don, I talk to Randy, I talk to Gail, but we have not all been in the room at the same time in 20 years. And we did that last weekend, and we did some really cool photo promos for Prime numbers, which I thought was really, really cool. I'm gonna use it for some promos on the Facebook page. Probably gonna end up on the back of the last book that I do for this, but it was so much fun. Turnaround weekend. I drove up on Thursday. I drove back on Sunday, and then immediately turned around this week, and we had one of our big tournaments at the club. It's a week-long tournament. I wasn't in the tournament. I just attended the social stuff, but it was stuff Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Last night was the awards dinner, and it was just I'm whipped.
You've been basically running since Thursday, or
I I
last
I
Thursday.
have been running. Well, yeah, I've been running since last week and have not stopped. I mean, it's been wild. The tournament was a lot of fun to watch. I might play in it next year. They asked me to play in it this year, and I said, well, honestly, if you just want my money that bad, I'll take my wallet out to the parking lot and piss on it for you, and you
Yeah.
can take it from there. One of my friends said, I'll actually still take your money. So anyway, it's been so busy, but
What a
it
very
was a
Texas response, sir.
oh, I know. It was a
I'll
lot
just
of
take the
fun.
money out and I'll piss on it. No, I'll take it anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of fun.
Had that
Just really, really busy.
conversation.
Oh yeah, I know. It's just wild. So anyway, we are screaming hard and fast towards episode 242, which
252.
that's what I said, 252.
Yes, yes,
Um,
exactly.
uh, for those of you that are new listeners to the show, 252 will mark our official 5-year anniversary for this show.
Hmm.
We'll be doing a special episode for that show just to let you know it's not going to be our normal nerd and murd. We're gonna be
Yeah.
talking a lot about the show, where we started, where we're going, and things like that. So just so you're aware, you're not going to get your nerd or your murd that week on 242, but 252. But would appreciate y'all listening in for that very
You're
special
gonna get
episode.
some weird, goofy, funny shit.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. So, all right. I don't really have much of anything else. I'm gonna sit back and sleep a little bit while you talk about Outer Limits. Take it over,
The
Vic.
Outer Limits. It's an American television series that was broadcast on ABC from September 16th, 1963 to January 16th, 1965 at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Mondays. It is often compared to The Twilight Zone, but features a greater emphasis on science fiction rather than stories of fantasy or the supernatural. It is an anthology of self-contained episodes, sometimes with plot twists. In 1997, the episode The Xantif Misfits ranked 98 on TV Guide's 100 Greatest Episodes of All Time. It was revived in 1995, running for 7 seasons. In April of 2019, a new revival was stated to be in development at a premium cable network, which never went into production. So, The Outer Limits was originally broadcast on ABC, um, and there were 49 episodes produced. It was one of many series influenced by the Twilight Zone in science fiction theater, though it ultimately proved influential in its own right. In the unaired pilot that was called Please Stand By, but ABC rejected the title, series creator Leslie Stevens retitled it The Outer Limits with a few changes. That pilot aired as the premiere episode of The Galaxy Being. Writers included Leslie Stevens, and Joseph Stefano, screenwriter of the film Psycho, who was a season one producer and creative guiding force, and who wrote more of the series episodes than anyone else. Future Oscar-winning screenwriter Robert Towne, who wrote Chinatown. He wrote the episodes of Chameleon. The final season one episode and a pair of season two episodes, Soldier and Demon with a Glass Hand, were written by Harlan Ellison, the later won a Writers Guild Award. Writer Joseph Stefano was recruited in a late night phone call with Leslie Stevens. The two men had known each other for years. Stevens met him with composer producer Dominic Frontier and pitched the series to him, asking him to come on as a writer and producer. Stefano, who had never produced before, felt reassured by associate producer Robert A. Justman to support him as Justman had experienced in TV. So I've said all that. Let me rewind the pod back machine. So as we spoke in a previous episode, I believe, yeah, 248, the last episode, The Twilight Zone.
Mhm.
Um, NBC had a hit with The Twilight Zone. The reason they quit doing it is because Rod Serling basically just ran out of steam. He couldn't do it anymore. It didn't get canceled. But happy to pick up on it. ABC Network was like, hey, we'd like to do one of these ourselves. So they started putting it together. Now, they also took inspiration from science fiction theater, which was a mid 50s series that did little science fiction vignette shows, real low budget. They wanted to increase the budget a little bit and got some special effects wizards behind it. And it ran for two seasons. It was not that popular when it ran the first time.
Right.
Much like unlike the Twilight Zone, which was popular at the time it ran. Um, but much like the Twilight Zone in later years, it kept coming up as one of the things that would be on, syndication, or little TV stations would run it. Usually in a block with the Twilight Zone was not that uncommon to see that. So The Outer Limits is way more science fiction oriented. Um, and it shows some of the special effects that they did, um, where they would film something in a they would film somebody in a costume that was very reflective and shine a bunch of light at it, and then instead of producing the fully produced um, uh, print, because they did it on film, they would show the negative instead.
Hmm.
So it was just very otherworldly. It was some of these tricks, that they did. And again, they also used, much like the Twilight Zone, bits and pieces from the Outer Limits and This Island Earth and some of the other more highbrow science fiction productions. Um, Even today, some of the effects are quite chilling. I will say, with the Xantif Misfits, they do look like puppets, but it's still a cool story. Um,
Well, and they used some of the creatures in Outer Limits in Star Trek.
yes, yes, they did. They got reused and painted, or in some cases just flat used
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Um, Season one combined science fiction and horror, and season two was more focused on hard sci-fi stories, dropping the recurring scary monster motif of season one. Each episode in season one had to have a monster or creature as a critical part of the storyline in a villain of the week format. Season one writer and producer Joseph Stefano believed the elements were necessary to provide fear, suspense, or at least be a central plot development. The kinds of story elements became known as the bear. This device was, however, mostly dropped in season two after Stefano left. Two season one episodes without a bear are The Forms of Things Unknown and Controlled Experiment. The first of which was shot in a dual format as science fiction for The Outer Limits and as a thriller for a pilot of an unmade series, The Unknown. Actor Barry Morse, who starred in Controlled Experiment, states that it was made as a pilot for the unrealized science fiction comedy series. It was the only comedic episode of The Outer Limits. Barry Morse being a little more well known as the first season scientist in Space 1999. Earlier season one episodes with no bear were The 100 Days of the Dragon and The Borderland, made before the bear convention was established. Season two episode with a bear are Keepers of the Purple Twilight, The Duplicate Man, Wolf 359, and The Probe. Bears appear near the conclusion of season two episodes Counterweight, The Invisible Enemy, and Cold Hands, Warm Heart. The bear is the architects of fear. The monstrously altered Alan Layton was judged by some in ABC's local affiliate stations to be so frightening that they broadcast a black screen during the Thetan's appearance, effectively censoring most of the show's last act. In other parts of the United States, the Thetan footage was tape delayed until after the 10 p.m. news. The series was shot at KTTV Metro Media Square on Soundstage number two. Season one had music from Dominic Frontier, who doubled as production executive. Season two featured music by Harry Lublin with a variation of his Fear theme from One Step Beyond being heard over the end titles. Um, and again, these notes go heavily into the way that they would film techniques. They would use film trickery because everything was practical because it's 1963. Um, they invented a lot of these ideas that went on to be used in shows like Star Trek and other things that you see later on.
Yeah,
Um,
matter of fact, because you had just said something, so I had to look it up. You said Wolf 359, and I was like, why do I know Wolf 3.9, 3.9,
it's
3.59?
actually a spatial coordinate.
Yeah, and it was a battle in Star
Yeah,
Trek.
yeah.
Was it
This is the Borg
TNG?
battle.
Borg battle.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Wolf 359.
Yeah,
It plays pretty heavily in Deep Space Nine too, because that's where Cisco lost his wife.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it was kicking me in the back of the head because at first I was like, did Doctor Who take that? No, that's Big Bad Wolf. What was 359? So I had to go look it up.
It is actually a spatial coordinate. It's a location in space. Uh,
It's actually pretty sad though, now that I say that too. You say Wolf 3.9 and my little nerd head goes, science fiction elsewhere, science fiction
it's
elsewhere.
it's like yeah,
And
it's
the
like
fact I
little
was able to
things light
connect it
up,
to,
little
yeah,
tapes start
I know.
rolling.
The fact that I was able to connect it right to Star Trek just screamed in the back of my head. No.
You're a fucking nerd. Uh, yeah, the Wolf 359 episode specifically featured a bear consisting of a piece of latex rubber, eight wooden tongue depressors, and a styrofoam ball. These items were attached to mime's hands and shot against a black background. It actually looks pretty cool. The only one that really I always found to be a little distracting was the Xantif
Hmm.
misfits, and it's because they were giant ant creatures, and there wasn't a really good way to. Well, I say giant ant creatures. They were giant for ants. They were only about a foot long, and they had human faces on them. It was kind of hard to do that back then. It's actually kind of hard to do that now without using CGI. So it's a little off-putting, but it's the story is really freaky.
Episode 41 is I, Robot. How did they get away with that?
I think Asimov actually wrote for them. Keep in mind
Um,
they used a bunch of writers.
yeah, let me look
Now
too. I'll look a
I
little
did
deeper here.
since the Twilight Zone episode, we talked about there were five seasons and a pilot, so I wanted to talk about six episodes. In this one, I also wanted to talk about six episodes, even though there were only two seasons. And these are the ones that really stood out to me. Again, there were only a total of 49 episodes. A lot of people thought the Outer Limits was as spanning as the Twilight Zone is.
Hmm.
It's not. There's less
Hmm.
than 50 episodes. The
Asimov had nothing to do with that episode, and what I'm reading here is the Outer Limits I, Robot story
uh-huh.
predates Asimov.
Oh, so maybe that's where he got the idea for the name of the
Maybe,
story.
maybe.
But
Well,
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
and the story's very similar. I mean, the story is Adam Link is accused of murder. However, Adam Link is a robot who maintains the victim's death was the result of an accident. Placed on
hmm,
trial for the murder of Professor Link, his creator, Adam Link, is defended by the professor's niece and retired lawyer. Ultimately, it turns out the prosecution is not simply placing the robot on trial, but mankind itself. Yeah, that feeds right into Asimov. That's
iRobot.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, but a lot of people were, I mean, and you think about it too. Harlan Ellison wrote some episodes.
Harlan
They were in
Ellison
the community.
sued James Cameron over Terminator.
Yeah.
He said that Cameron was stealing from him.
Yeah. Uh, he also stole from Ursula K. Le Guin. The word for world is forest.
Who did?
Eh,
Which
Cameron did.
really?
Yeah. Uh, and a little bit of PKD,
Hmm,
Clay People.
hmm, interesting.
Yeah.
Philip K. Dick, for those who are not aware.
Yeah. Yeah. Philip K. Dick,
I
PKD.
caught I caught it because again, nerd.
Nerd. Um, a lot of the creatures that appeared in Outer Limits were actually sold as models, action figures in the 1990s and 2000s, and you can't pick them up. Limited edition model kits to be assembled and painted by the purchaser were issued by Dimension Designs. A smaller set of out-of-the-box action figures were sold in large quantity by Sideshow Toys. The former produced a model kit for the Megazord from the Duplicate Man, and both created a figure of Gwillem as the evolved man and the Six-Fingered Man. What was cool about these action figures is you could get them in full color, you could get them in black and white, in grayscale shaded. I like the grayscale shaded ones. Um, so again, the 49 episodes. The first season had 32 episodes in it. My God, no one slept. This, what do you think? There's 52 weeks in a year. They take a few weeks off uh, for the holidays, um, and they basically got to make an episode every week and 2 days. The second season only had 17 episodes.
Hmm.
So it's 49 altogether. So the episode, again, with the Twilight Zone episode, we talked about 6 episodes. I thought we need to talk about 6 episodes of The Outer Limits. So I pulled the ones that stood out to me as I was looking through them. If you've got some more that are better, or you think, give us a line. We'll talk about those
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah, I'm not going to have any that just stick out for me because the Twilight Zone was more memorable for me. I like The Outer Limits. I just don't really remember a whole lot of these episodes, which is why I was having to
Yeah.
look up some of this stuff.
I
I remember it being really cool and very sci-fi.
Oh, it was very sci-fi. I will probably do some more of these anthology series because we haven't done them. Other than the Twilight Zone, we really haven't cracked the seal too much on them. So I think I might do like an ongoing series of some of these because, One Step Beyond was a good one. Science fiction theater we need to talk about. Um,
Science fiction theater,
yeah,
absolutely.
Tales from the Dark Side. God,
Yes.
that was a great show. Night Gallery, even though they
Creep,
were more horror centric,
creep show.
still, yeah, Creep Show, still great,
Hmm.
great stuff.
God, if you
Tales from the Crypt.
yeah, Tales from the Crypt was great. Actually, if you dive into that, completely sidetracking here. Um, you could actually cover some anthology series that were really, really cool that I don't think got enough attention, like Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, the
That
series
was
was a
a
great anthology
cool
series.
anthology
It was
series.
exceptional.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Freddy's
Um,
Nightmares also.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there were
Anyway,
a lot of great anthology series.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think we will. Um, the Philip K. Dick one that the Amazon did, they did one season of which were
I
all of them
know.
were incredible.
Love, Sex, and Robots.
Love, Sex, and Robots. Yeah.
And I mean, I'll throw it in there because we haven't really talked about it at length, and I don't know that you've watched every episode yet, and they're about to come out with the next season, I think this year. Black Mirror, baby.
Black Mirror. Yeah, yeah. I like
Black
Black
Mirror
Mirror.
takes so much from Twilight Zone.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And it's very I like that it's both English and American in the
Hmm.
production because
Hmm.
you get a nice span there.
Well, the entire first season was English.
Yeah. So the first episode I'm going to talk about is the galaxy being. Um, it is the first episode, originally broadcast on September 16th, 1963. In it, Alan Maxwell, an engineer for a small radio station, somehow makes contact with a peaceful alien creature called the galaxy being, who is then transported to Earth by accident by a radio wave. The galaxy being inadvertently kills several people with its natural radiation, is met with violence from people on Earth. Alan Maxwell is an engineer who has dedicated himself to researching microwave background noise using a device powered from his radio station. He inadvertently gets an extraterrestrial being from Andromeda on his three-dimensional television screen. Using his computer, Maxwell is able to translate the being's thought patterns into English, and both are conducting illicit experiments. Um, as in, the alien is not supposed to be doing what he's doing either.
Hmm.
Maxwell should not be using the radio station's power, and the being is not allowed to use the equipment for exploration. The being explains that it is a nitrogen cycle life form and that there is no death in our dimension and that wars are forbidden. Reasons we are not allowed to contact you, you are a danger to our galaxies. The two have further enlightened philosophical conversations in which no epistemological basis is given for the Andromedans' affirmation that Maxwell's brainwaves will go on. Subsequent to the death of his carbon-based body, the being explains that electromagnetic forces uh, underlie all intelligence. And infinity is God, God, infinity are the same. In response to Maxwell's query regarding whether the being believes in God as an intelligent force, Maxwell appears to accept that Andromeda's explanation as the knowledge of a superior being. That evening, Alan reluctantly leaves the radio station to be feted at a at a banquet. He leaves the channel open to the Andromedan, who warns, "Do not increase power levels." However, against Alan's instruction, disc jockey Eddie Phillips, who is substituting for Alan's brother, Buddy, turns up the power to full, causing the Andromedan to be transmitted to Earth as a three-dimensional electromagnetic being. Um, Here's the thing: the galaxy being itself is not attempting to cause harm, but his presence just does. Um, and there's a lot of stuff happening where people just don't understand what's going on, and people get hurt, and it's one of those old-fashioned science fiction stories. It's like, man, it makes you think, if we go to contact another being who is different from us, not a carbon-based life form, um, simply meeting them could cause us or the being harm, which is why you have to be very careful in situations like that. And it basically lays that whole thing out perfectly. Now, this is one of those instances where they basically covered this person in a reflective material, shined a light on them, and then just showed the photo negative of it. So it's very freaky and eerie every time you see the being, because it looks like an electromagnetic creature. Um, you've seen this one, right?
I remember it. Like I
Yeah,
said, none of these are going to really hugely stick out for me. They all kind of merged together for
they
me
all blend
because,
together.
yeah, because I didn't. I've seen the Twilight Zone multiple times. Like I said in the Twilight Zone episode, I think it's Sci-Fi used to. I don't know if they still do. Used to do a marathon of
Yeah,
every season. I've never seen that for Outer Limits. I've seen it in repeats, but
yeah.
I don't remember this as much.
An Outer Limits marathon. Yeah. See, this is why we should own a small TV station.
Pass, pass.
Like, you don't want to deal with it.
No.
Um, the next episode I want to talk about is the Xantif Misfits. And again, the special effects in this are not what they could be. And I think it's just because they were dealing with it wasn't a question of money or unwillingness to go the extra mile. I think they went as far as they could. They were just limited by the technology they had at their fingertips at the
Hmm.
time. The Xantif is an episode of the original Outer Limits. It was first broadcast on December 30th, 1963 during the first season. It is listed as one of the greatest episodes of all time for television. I think it's like number 98. Oh, we said so earlier. Military forces have cordoned off a ghost town aptly named Morgue, located in a remote section of the desert of California, while awaiting the arrival of a spacecraft from the planet Xanti. The perfectionist rulers of that planet, after making radio contact with our government, have decided that the Earth is the perfect place to exile their undesirables and criminals in exchange for sharing technological advances with the Earth. They threaten total destruction if their penal ship is attacked or if their privacy is not
Penal.
maintained. Hmm? Penal.
I said, penal.
During the negotiations, Ben Garth, a bank robber on the run, along with his reluctantly morally deficient accomplice and girlfriend, Lisa, cross the cordon and run down an armed sentry during the approach of the Xanti ship. After seeing the ship land, Ben climbs a small mesa to investigate the landing site. A Xanti regent emerges from an open hatch of the ship and kills Ben. The Xanti are revealed to be grotesque, oversized, ant-like beings with malicious, human-like faces. The Xanti regent pursues Ben's now terrified accomplice, believing that the privacy was violated. The remaining Xanti prisoners commandeered the penal ship and landed atop the roof of a military command post. When the Xanti prisoners attack Earth's nervous soldiers, a brutal firefight ensures that all of the aliens are massacred. The soldiers are airmen anxiously awaiting the expected reprisal, but instead they receive a message and thanks from the Xanti leaders who explained they were incapable of executing members of their own species, so they sent them into the hands of a race who possessed no qualms about killing. The human race referred to as a practiced executioners. But again, this one's kind of terrifying. It's like, oh shit, they're gonna blow up the planet now. No, no, actually, they appreciate it. Thanks.
Mm.
Here's transporter technology. But it's pretty funny. And it's given that the ants are not as well done as they could be, it's still creepy as fuck. It has a very insect disaster film feeling to it, like where killer ants take over a town or whatever. It has that feel to it.
Hmm.
Um, the next episode I want to talk about is a feasibility study. In an episode, it first aired on April 13th, 1964, also during the first season. Again, the first season has 32 episodes in it. The second season only has 17. Um, this is one of the ones that they used when they brought back the series back, also called feasibility study. Uh, a 6-block suburban area, people in all is teleported to Luminos. The Luminoids will study the feasibility of enslaving human beings because Luminoids suffer from a genetic disease that condemns them to become an immobile as rocks as they age. Eventually, a suburbanite is introduced to the hideous Luminoid rulers who reveal their plans in that they punish for disobedience is to be touched by a Luminoid and thereby contract the terrible disease. The humans realize that they've been trapped with no chance of returning home. They accept that their former lives are over. Even submission to the luminoids would not prevent inadvertent infection, and that's left in defiance of protecting the rest of the humanity back on Earth. In the final scene, they willfully contract the disease from each other, thus choosing death over slavery, rendering the luminoids experiment inconclusive. The abduction of the human race is proven infeasible and abandoned. This one, um, this one is actually like a small film,
Hmm.
like a creepy science fiction film, and the luminoid infection. Um, so there used to be a carpet backing that had little bubbles that they used in the 60s and the 70s instead of being, a flat piece. It was these little ridged bubbles. It looks like, and they were made out of foam rubber. It looks like that's what they used for the luminoid infection. The effect is in black and white. The effect is very, very chilling, and it works.
Is
Um,
this
the,
is this episode, and I may be confusing this with the Twilight Zone episode. There's an episode I'm remembering where a town wakes up in their neighborhood. They're still in their neighborhood, and
Mhm.
throughout the episode, they find out they've been taken to another planet. The whole neighborhood has been uprooted. Is
Oh,
that
with the
what?
with the with the with the wall around it. No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a Twilight Zone episode.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Couldn't remember if I was confusing those. Thank
they
you.
did. They did. Outer Limits did take, because again, Twilight Zone happened before Outer Limits.
Right.
They did take some of those Twilight Zone themes and put a science fiction bent on them. This is one of those cases, but in this case, this one is, oh my God, this one is creepy as fuck. I remember seeing this when I was a little kid, just getting the shit scared out of me. I don't want to turn into a rock. And oh God, what are they? The luminoids.
Hmm.
The luminoids. It's they're this they're already look kind of rocky, but when they eventually get to where they can't move around, they're just these fucking stone statues. So creepy, so creepy. Oh yeah, I love this one. Um, Now the next two are for the second season. The first one being Soldier. It's the first of two episodes of the Outer Limits television series written by both of these were written by Harlan Ellison. It is loosely adapted from his 1957 short story Soldier from Tomorrow. It first aired on September 19th, 1964 during the second season. So, 1800 years in the future, two infantrymen clash on a battlefield. A random energy weapon strikes both, and they are hurled into a time vortex. While one soldier is temporarily trapped in the time limbo, the other, Quar Quarlo Clabregni
Hmm.
materializes in an alley off of a city street in the United States in the year of 1964. Quarlo Clabregni. Um, the feral Qualo is soon captured and later interrogated by Tom Kagan, a philologist. Quarlo's origin is eventually discovered after Kagan translates his seemingly unintelligible language, Nims Quarlo Clabrini, Prite Arium Adding Tain Deo, into colloquial English. And what he is saying is, my name is Quarlo Clabrini, private, Reentndo. His name, his rank, and his serial number. That's all he gives. So he just keeps repeating it because that's what he was taught when he was captured. Um, uh, Quarlo has been bred and trained for one purpose, to kill the enemy. Kagan makes progress in taming Quarlo, however, and despite the reservations of his government associates, Kagan takes Quarlo to his home and family. Although he seemingly begins to trust Kagan, Quarlo breaks into a gun shop and brings home a rifle because he needs a weapon. Meanwhile, the time Eddie holds the enemy soldier eventually weakens and he materializes in 1964 and tracks Quarlo to Kagan's home. In a final hand-to-hand battle, the soldiers kill each other, but the question is posed whether Quarlo sacrificed his life because he was trained to kill or because he wanted to save the Kagan family. Um, Quarlo being played adeptly by, I did not put it in my notes because I'm an idiot.
You're looking for what
Because I'm
now?
Michael Ansara. I couldn't
Oh,
think of the actor's name, who played
gotcha.
Klingons and other stuff
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Star Trek, as well as some characters in uh, Buck Rogers and all sorts of other stuff. Um, this one is one of my favorites, and because it deals with the idea of language evolves. The English that we're speaking today, if you went back, if you went back 400 years, you could understand it, but it would sound weird. If you went back 800 years, they'd start speaking to you. You'd think they were speaking German
Sure.
because
Well,
that's what it sounded like
there's
with
a high
French in
chance
it.
that they, yeah, I was going to say there's a high chance that they were.
Hmm. Yeah, English is closer to like the Dutch version of German than the German version of German. It's more Frenchy German.
Right.
But you would not be able to understand it. If you go in time 1800 years, they could be speaking standard American English to you and you probably wouldn't get it.
Right.
Um, there were you'd understand, one out of every probably 10 words.
Oh, you want an easy example of this? Go read Shakespeare in the original English.
Yeah,
It's out there.
yeah. That's
You,
middle.
Yeah,
Middle Acts, early modern English, but
yeah,
yeah.
something like that. But yeah, I mean, read that. You'll struggle reading through that.
Yeah, your brain has to reset to understand it. He also
Hmm.
wrote his stuff real flowery. They didn't actually talk like that a
Right,
lot.
right.
Yeah, but it's he flowered it up so it's more poetic. But yeah, you'd start to talk to them and it'd be like it takes your brain 5 or 10 minutes to reorient. That's what I tell anybody who's like they're like I don't understand Shakespeare. Like just sit down and listen to it.
Actually, was it not Old English? I'm looking it up.
Old English
Um,
sounds like Dutch.
well, it's Germanic.
Yeah, Middle English has French in it.
Hmm.
Middle English has French in it with a Viking accent, which is even weirder.
Old English is the earliest highly inflected West Germanic form of English, heavily influenced by Runic, Latin, and Celtic tradition.
Yeah. And then, and then you come over here, eventually the English that we speak here and the English that they speak in we'll say England or New Zealand or Australia, or hell, maybe even Canada, will become mutually indistinguishable or
Mm,
mutually unintelligible. Um, it's like it's like Spanish and Portuguese. They started out as the same language. They are still kind of mutually intelligible, like 80-20. But just because you speak Spanish doesn't necessarily mean you can speak Portuguese. You might understand what a speaker is saying mostly, but it's not the same. And those languages split off from each other not that long ago. Etymology, entomological,
yeah,
etymologically
yep,
speaking.
yep.
Yeah, I
You
can't
go
say
there.
that.
You
Yeah,
go
yeah.
there, boo. You do you.
Entomology. You know what? I'm just not. Wait, I'm going to move on to the next episode. Anyway, that's a fascinating point about that episode. Because it takes him a while to realize that he's speaking English and it's just different because it's from 1800 years in the future. The last episode I want to talk about is Demon with a Glass Hand. In my opinion, my humble opinion, this is the best episode of The Outer Limits.
And I would agree with you. It was funny as I was just looking through the list, I was like, that's going to be his last episode right there.
Yeah. Well, I also did mention Keeper of Purple Twilight, but just as some side notes. It's like a 1A, 1B.
Hmm.
Uh, it is an episode of the American television series Outer Limits, the second to be based on a script by Harlan Ellison, which Ellison wrote specifically with actor Robert Culp in mind for the lead role. It originally aired on October 17th, 1964, and was the fifth episode of the second season. In 2009, TV Guide ranked Demon with the Glass Hand number 73 on its list of 100 greatest episodes. Trent, played by Robert Culp, is a man with no memory of his life before the previous 10 days. His left hand has been replaced by an advanced computer shaped like his missing hand and protected by some transparent material. Hence, Demon with the Glass Hand. Three fingers are missing. The computer tells him they must be reattached before it can tell Trent what is going on. Trent is being hunted by a handful of humanoid aliens called Kybin. They have been the missing. They have the missing appendages. The action takes place in a large, rundown office building, the historic Bradbury Building in downtown Los Angeles, which the Kybin have sealed off from the world. In the deadly game of hide and seek, Trent enlists the help of Consuelo Buros, Arlene Martel, a woman who works in the building. For reasons unknown to him, Trent was sent into the past via a time mirror located in the building. A captured Kybin tells Trent that both of them are from 1,000 years in the future. In that future, Earth has been conquered by the Kybin, and that all surviving humans, except Trent, have mysteriously vanished. The aliens are being obliterated by a radioactive plague that is killing all of the Kybin occupation force, a plague apparently unleashed by the humans in a last-ditch effort to repeal the invasion. Um, in desperate attempts to find a cure for the plague and to extract whatever knowledge is stored in the hand computer, the Kybin have followed him back in time with the missing fingers. Eventually, Trent defeats all of his Kybin hunters by ripping off the medallion-shaped devices they wear to anchor them in the past, which sends them back to the future. Trent successfully destroys the mirror and recovers the missing fingers one by one. When the computer is whole, he learns that terrible truth. He is not a human, but he is a robot. Brain scans of the human survivors have been digitally encoded onto a gold copper alloy wire wrapped around the solenoid in his thorax. Immune to disease, he must protect his precious cargo for 1,200 years after the Khyber invasion, by which time the plague will have dissipated. Then he will resurrect the human race. Trent has thought he was a man, and he and Consuelo had begun to develop feelings for each other. When the truth is revealed, she leaves him, pity mixed with horror in her eyes. Trent is left to face 1,200 years as a lonely vigil. This episode is dark, and Robert Culp is so fucking good in this. Because you really feel for this dude. It's like, dude. And he takes that hand and he starts putting the fingers on it, and he'll get more information. When he finally puts that, like, because he's got like I remember this right. He has like the thumb and the pinky, and it's the three middle fingers he has to, because he has a thumb in it, right?
Yes.
Because yeah, because he uses it. Um, but eventually he gets the hand whole, and when he holds it up and stares at it, all the information is stored in the fingers, and it downloads to the rest of his body. Amazing, so amazing. But he does exactly what he was programmed to do. He just doesn't know that's what his programming was telling him to do, because he doesn't know. He thinks he's just a dude with a weird prosthetic hand that works. Not only is it really well written, really well acted, the special effects are pretty good. The hand actually looks like a working prop. Um, Especially for 1964, it's incredible. For now, it's pretty damn good.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, it's got this sad tale at the end. I can't speak enough. You know this episode.
Yes. Yeah. I remember this episode. It it's hard to forget this episode. Very hard
Yeah.
to forget. It's a great episode.
Oh my God, so good.
Is this the one that Harlan Ellison sued Cameron over?
It may be Demon
Because
with the Glass Hand.
it sure does sound like it could be.
Yeah, it may be. Yeah, Demon with Glass Hand is pretty fucking good. I think he based this on a short story that he had. Um, but he wrote it with Robert Culp in mind because he was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, the only guy
Mm-hmm.
we need we need the dude from I Spy to do this because I think he was doing I Spy at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, played adeptly by Robert Culp because he's such a sympathetic character. He's so kind and wants to protect and help everybody, and then you realize that's what he's supposed to do. That's his
Mm-hmm.
job. The last episode I'll just kind of mention a little bit is Keeper of the Purple Twilight. This is a monster episode. The reason I want to talk about it is I really, really like the the effect. Um, it first aired on December 5th, 1964 during the second season. Pilot of the Purple Twilight dropped down with costly bales and a line for Alfred Tennyson's poem Locksley Hall. Scientist Eric Plummer comes under the sinister influence of a creature from outer space, capable of materializing in human form but lacking human emotions. As a prelude for the invasion of Earth by his kind, an extraterrestrial being, Ikar, studies the human race. The one thing he cannot comprehend is emotion. Meanwhile, obsessed scientist Plummer is nearing a nervous breakdown, trying to complete a magnetic disintegrator that will convert matter into pure energy, um, which would help Ikar's invasion. Um, it's revealed that Ikar comes from a high world with strictly defined roles, divorced from emotion and personal identity. Big brains like himself do the thinking, while soldiers do the fighting, and females produce the offspring as their function. Very like bees. Um, but Ikar starts getting emotions himself, and it freaks him the fuck out. Um, he gets anger and desire for Janet, who compares Icar's world to an ant colony. Plummer's girlfriend is Janet Lane. Um, and Icar can't understand it. It's got a great name for it. Keeper of the Purple Twilight. It's got a great mask, and it's a little humorous toward the end, the way because Icar inhabits the dude, but you also see Icar. Kind of weird, a little bit of back and forth, but I kind of like this one. I do not like it as much as Demon in the Glass Hand. Demon with the Glass Hand is probably the best that they did.
Oh yeah.
But I would recommend this one too. Um, but yeah, that's about it for the Outer Limits, other than get out and see it. Um, I have included scenes from all of the episodes we talked about in our YouTube playlist.
Is it
Um,
streaming anywhere?
yeah, I
I,
just
I can
watched.
look it up. You keep talking.
Yeah,
I'll
I
look
just
it up.
watched it not too long ago. I want to say it's on like one of the free sites. But yeah, it's like the Twilight Zone. Just go and check it out. It's in black and white. Just deal with it. You should also watch the new series, which we will cover as well. But I wanted to cover some other anthology series first,
Hmm.
since we're doing anthology
Says it's
series.
available on Prime.
Is it?
That's what it said.
Is that the new one or the old one?
I don't know. It says Prime and Roku.
Okay.
I'll check
Yeah.
that out. I'll check that out
Sit,
because I'd like to see Demon with the Glass Hand again.
yeah, it's really good. Uh, yeah, sit down and check that out. I think they've cleaned the old episodes up because I've seen them recently. I can't remember where I watched it, and they've been cleaned up a little bit because again, they
Hmm.
were originally shot in film and then transmitted to videotape. Um, and transmission from film to videotape back in the 60s wasn't always a great process. You lose some depth. But that's what TV stations ran for years and years. They have take them back and digitally, basically, I don't want to say fixed them, but cleaned them up. Um, because there are some artifacts of the transferring process from film to videotape that you can take out now, which you couldn't really do in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So they're nice and clean copies. They haven't added anything to them, just taken out some of the depth problems of
Hmm.
the you know
Hmm.
moving it from film because you lose some depth moving it from film to video.
Yeah,
You get the
I'm
depth
gonna
back.
I'm gonna see if I can get them because I'd like to watch those again. But yeah,
Yeah,
everybody, if you can find it, get it, watch them. Well worth the
yeah,
watch. Well worth the
yeah. I
watch.
if you're only going to watch one, watch the Demon with the Glass Hand. It's
Yeah,
really good. Even though I gave away the plot, it doesn't matter.
right.
You'll still like it.
Yeah, awesome.
Um, well, thank you, sir.
Appreciate that. With that, we'll step over to the murder side of the house.
Murder.
Stepping away from my A to Z across America serial killers, however you want to title that. Um, I I ran across this one, and I really kind of wanted to talk about it. This is I don't have any sources to cite for this, and you'll hear why in a minute. But this is the story of Shane Paul Wright.
Shane Paul Wright.
Actually found this story simply because he is another author, and we connected through one of our author sites simply because we shared a last name.
Uh-huh.
And I got to find out about his book. And when he started talking about it, I was immediately interested. But before we begin, I want to be very, very clear. This is my second version of this episode. The first one I wrote was very clinical, and it
Hmm.
was written entirely from news articles, as most of my episodes are.
Hmm.
This is not a traditional true crime episode. There was not a trial. There was no contested narrative of guilt, and there was no attempt to conceal what happened. Um, what this episode reflects is what is publicly available, the reporting, court records, and then clarifications of it provided directly by Shane Paul Wright after the initial draft. I sent it to him. I sent him because I spoke with him. I sent him the first draft, and he was offended very quickly.
Oh no.
Well, and I understand why. I took everything directly from news reports
Yeah.
without going through his book, and he clarified a lot of things for me.
Oh, okay, cool.
It was very interesting because, like I said, it was very clinical. This story really deserved better than that, and so I ended up rewriting it. Some of the details in this case are emotionally difficult. It may trigger some people. Some are very morally complex. Um, and some of it really doesn't fit neatly into legal categories that we often rely on when we're talking about the stories. This is not about declaring innocence or guilt. It is very simply understanding what happened or actually what happens when the law encounters a truth it doesn't know how to name. Um, so, like I said, we've been walking each state of America's serial killers from A to Z, and in those journeys, we talk about patterns, we talk about repetition, we talk about escalation. But really, sometimes a story comes along that it just doesn't fit the map. Not because it's smaller or quieter, but because it asks different questions. And this is really about what happens when a death doesn't fit cleanly into murder or accident, and what happens when intent, belief, illness, and desperation all collide together in a single moment. So as I said, we're stepping away from the 80s A to Z series, not because it's finished by any means, but because this story couldn't wait. It's not a serial killer case. There's no pattern, there's no history of violence, no escalation. This is the story of one death, one son, one father. And it's really about a system that was trying to decide what to do when the truth of what happens uh, doesn't fit the language it was built to use, really. Um, it didn't begin with suspicion at all. It simply began with a phone call. After his father died, Shane Paul Wright called the police himself. He didn't run, he didn't hide, he did not wait to be discovered. He very simply reported what happened and stayed there. Within hours, Shane sat in front of detectives and he spoke with them for several hours. He answered questions without an attorney present. He did not deny his involvement. He didn't attempt to redirect blame, and he acknowledged what had occurred. Um, and from the very beginning, this was not about police uncovering a hidden suspect. It was all built around how to interpret the truth that was already in front of them. And what that was Shane's father had died inside the home. The method of death was violent. There was no ambiguity about this. What was ambiguous to police was the why. Um, so as you look at this case, it really can't be understood unless you understand what preceded it. Shane's father was very, very deeply religious. He was a member of the LDS Church, um, and his beliefs were not peripheral at all. They were very central to the events that followed. He was in the early stages of colon cancer. He did not want to undergo treatment. He did not want to experience physical decline. And because of his faith, he believed he could not take his own life. According to Shane, a year before the death, his father asked him to help him end his life, and Shane refused. And so instead, he took his father to a psychiatric facility and admitted him there for help. His father did receive medication and therapy. And then during the investigation that followed his death, his therapist actually retained their own legal counsel and released statements related to what had been disclosed during treatment. So that's kind of a red flag right there. Um, that wasn't a spontaneous request from anybody. It was not an isolated conversation. It was all part of ongoing mental health and end of life struggle that existed long before the night in question where everything ended. Um, Despite the fact that Shane immediately cooperated with police, the state moved forward with charges, and Shane was arrested and charged with murder. Um, then what followed after that was not a trial, it was just a delay. And he had told me that for more than 2 years, he sat in jail while prosecutors struggled with how to proceed. Court dates kind of came and went, and each time the answer was the same. We're still trying to figure it out. So he just sat there in jail while they were all trying to figure it out because in the big picture, Shane killed his father. Big picture. His father went through the psychiatric therapy, he went through everything. His father did not want to live with the results that come from cancer. My own father died of cancer. I watched him wither away. I watched him become a hollow shell of what he was. Cancer is a horrifying disease, horrifying. Can't stress enough how horrifying it is. So I kind of understand where Shane was. His own father, who he loved very much, wanted to die, did not want to go through what was going to happen. And so eventually, Shane killed him. There's no questioning that. And Shane admitted it. So he sat there in jail while prosecutors were trying to figure out what to do with this case because nobody knew.
Mhm.
Um, this wasn't a case where evidence was still being uncovered. The facts were all known. It was what was unclear to prosecutors was how the law should classify it because there was no real law that was covering it. Because this took place in Utah and they didn't have a clear framework for this situation. This was not a suicide and it was not assisted suicide in the traditional sense, but it also wasn't murder in the conventional sense. This was just a death that the system didn't know how to put a name on it. So eventually, the state did offer a plea agreement. The murder charge was dropped, and Shane agreed to or accepted a plea of manslaughter. So we didn't have any jury. There was no verdict. There was no courtroom battle over compelling
Like a
narrative.
bench trial.
Yeah, because there was a lot of the articles I read that talked about the jury and the drama in the courtroom. When I first wrote that, Shane said that never happened.
Oh,
And that's why he was very offended because I was going purely by the news articles. And he was like, no, this is not what happened.
we said it before and we'll say it again. Reporters are inherently lazy.
Sometimes,
They go on some assumptions.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So Shane,
And I don't want to say reporters have always been lazy. This is a recent development.
hmm hmm
Yeah,
right.
because they used to be hardcore researchers. That is not the case anymore.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. And you see this frequently in
Uh-huh.
news articles now. A perfect example. And well, because you have so many armchair reporters now. The
Uh-huh.
internet, you can put anything out there. I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now, and shame for me because it's very famous what's going on. The Today Show reporter whose mother has disappeared.
Uh-huh.
Do you know about this?
No.
Huge case going on. The reporter, she was actually supposed to report at the Olympics, but she ended up not going. Her mother disappeared one night from her Arizona home.
Okay.
There was blood found. There looks like there was a camera that caught a man in a mask and gloves, if I recall right. But anyway, she's gone. 82 years old,
Holy
and
crap.
she's been gone weeks now.
Oh,
Um, there's $1 million reward out there for this. Um, well, the point I was getting to with the internet armchair reporters is Chelsea was just telling me last night. She said, "Oh, did you see that they found the mother?" And I said, "No." She said, "Yeah, they found her in a trash bag." I was like, "Oh my God." I go, "Look, it didn't happen. They have not found anybody yet.
mhm.
They've just they've been testing DNA. They can't get a match, but
They
yet
found a
people
body in a trash bag and they just assumed it
maybe
was her. Yeah.
maybe so." And so that was the internet reporting it. And you see a lot of that with these lazy reportings as well.
Yeah.
And so that's what I found here. There was a lot of misinformation, incredible news sources, and in an act for credible, which is why I didn't name any here because they obviously weren't as credible as I thought. Um, but
They were
eventually,
wrong.
they were very wrong. Eventually, the state offered a plea agreement to Shane, as I said. He did serve time in prison. Um, and then after he served time, the Utah was in there for a while. The Utah Board of Pardons and Paroles reviewed the case and granted immediate release.
Oh,
I think he spent 2 years in prison, if I recall correctly. Did I
well,
say
so
that?
four altogether. He spent 2 years trying to figure out how to prosecute him, and then 2 years in jail.
I think so. I don't have that written. I hate that I don't have it written. I forgot about that. Um, they granted him relief, but that decision didn't erase the death, nor did it declare him innocent.
Yeah.
It just acknowledged something that was very critical in that this case didn't fit the box it had been placed in. Um, and so overall, this wasn't about winning arguments or rewriting the past. It was all about how systems behave when they encounter moral complexity. And that's what this was. It was a very morally complex case.
Yeah, what are the ethics in this?
Yes,
Yeah, what do we ethically, what do we do?
no, exactly. And Shane didn't disappear or deny involvement. He
Mm-mm.
didn't force the state to chase
It
any story.
it doesn't sound like it.
No, no. The state had all the facts very early, but what it was lacking was the actual language to frame it. And what that often creates is a default to punishment while they decide, which is what Shane was going through.
Hmm.
Because this case really kind of sits in an uncomfortable place. It's a space between law, belief, illness, and human desperation. This case challenges the very idea that tragedy fits cleanly into the very categories that we
Well, I
rely
mean,
on.
no offense, but the state doling out punishment is a very old and outdated idea. The state
I
shouldn't dole out punishment. The state should try to do what is best for society at large.
Well, and we'll disagree on that a little bit because I do think punishment sometimes does benefit society. If we remove,
That's
I'm
what
not
I'm
going to.
saying. That's what I'm saying. It's the goal. The goal is not to punish the bad people. The goal is to make society better. Whatever that is,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we should do.
Right, right. But
But
that
people in
allows.
people's brains, it's like, well, we have to punish them. No, we need to do what is best for society, and whatever that is, that's what we do.
Well, but if punishing them is what is best for society, that's what we should do. We have covered cases where you have absolutely agreed because of the is this a word, hainosity? Because of the heinous.
Well, I mean, it's again, it's not. That's the thing. We shouldn't use the word. Maybe we shouldn't use the word punishment. We need to do whatever is best for society, and what is best for society is to take this person out of society. You
Right,
know what I mean?
but that in itself is a punishment.
Okay,
It is a
we
punishment.
we should stop using the word punishment, is what I'm saying. We should whatever's best. Let's do that because
Well,
punishment has a whole connotation of, well, you're right and I'm wrong. And in cases like this,
and so how would you name it though? Because let's take a case for example. Let's take the Green River Killer.
mhm,
Um, uh, he was his freedom was removed
yes,
and he was incarcerated.
yeah,
That's a punishment.
but but maybe in some cases there are people who will commit crimes so they can go back to jail.
Oh yeah, I
Is
know.
is that a punishment?
No, and
Or
I'm not.
as you said, is it just like I said, I think we should take the word punishment out of it because it just because from a purely language standpoint. You get what
Well,
I'm
but
saying?
that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. There are people that they can't make it in society. They are poor. They can't get three square meals a day. They don't
Hmm.
have a bed. They don't have clothing, and so they commit a crime to go back to jail where they did get three squares a day. They got bedding
Three
and
hots
blah
and a
blah blah
cot.
blah.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
three hots and a cot. I agree with you on that, but I can't agree with you on the fact that if someone is convicted of a crime and sent to jail. Now, I'm not talking about the outliers of the ones who do it to go back. I'm talking about the ones who didn't want to go to jail in the first place. They just wanted to commit the crime.
Hmm.
Um, I I'm not following why punishment is not
I
appropriate
think
there.
okay, so punishment evokes the word punishment evokes a moral high ground. And honestly, I don't think we should apply that to anybody because no one really has one.
Well,
Not in today's society.
and that's what I was looking for from you. So what word would you put on it? If we
Incarcerate, which is what the law uses.
right,
Yeah. I just don't think we should use the word punishment.
you don't think we should use the word punishment unilaterally.
Exactly. Well, I don't believe we should use punishment at all. It's like what is best for society? The best thing for society is to get this person out of society and try to reform them into a productive member of society, or maybe it is to just get them out of society.
Sure.
I think the idea of punishment itself is an outmoded idea. I think
And
that should have died out with things like chattel slavery and duels. You know.
and that's where we disagree because in my mind, and again, I'm not talking about people who voluntarily want to go back into
Hmm.
prison. I'm talking about the child molester killer that has gone out and raped children and murdered children.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I fucking want them punished. I
Yeah, well,
absolutely
yeah,
want
but
them punished.
that's the thing. As a society, as a society as a whole, what is best for society is to remove them so they can't do that anymore,
Yes, and that
irregardless of whether they're punished
yeah,
or not. So we just
and I
do
want
what's best.
and I want them punished, and I want them ass raped every single fucking day they're in prison.
Well, okay, yeah,
You know,
that's a crime. That
well,
is a crime. So you're advocating for a crime.
well, I am what I'm advocating is Hammurabi's law, honestly.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. And if you run by Hammurabi's law, everyone is blind and toothless.
I know, I understand that, I understand.
And
But
hey,
that's
I can
where I,
agree with you. But here's the thing. In some cases, those people, if they have enough money, they're not going to jail.
oh, I know, they don't get punished. You know,
Well,
they
they
don't.
don't do what is best for society.
Yes, they
Okay,
don't.
I'm sorry. That was a
So
semantic argument. Please
no, no,
continue.
and it's fine. It's a fine argument. I just wanted a word if we weren't going to use punishment because I do believe in punishment for certain people. I do believe in punishment for certain crimes. Um, this, however, was not one of those. Um, you know, again, I only found Shane because we share the last name,
Yeah,
and when he first reached out, that alone would not have stopped my A to Z series.
yeah.
Um, what stopped it is I began reading about the case, and I realized this was not a story that was going to sit and wait its turn because I wanted this story out here, not because it was louder than anything, and not because it was more shocking, but
Hmm.
because this is a case that refuses easy answers. Um, he did later write a book, as I'd said, and he wrote Wright to Jail, a memoir on murder. Uh, Wright to Jail, a memoir on murder? Not exactly. Um, is the
Did
name
you
of the
spell it W-R-I-G-H-T?
yes, yes.
Nice.
And
Nice pun.
this episode is not based on the book. As I said, I have not read it.
Hmm.
It was based on the public record and the reporting around the case and Shane's own words himself. Because I spoke to him, I sent him the initial draft, and like I said, when I offended him, I was like, oh shit, I need to look at this again.
Yeah.
Um, but what this case was really about is and our disagreement there was a perfect example. Um, True crime is not just about what happened; it's about how we decide what something is. This is a reminder that not every death fits neatly into the categories that are built. But when we try to force them to anyway, the square peg in the round hole, that cost is carried by real people like Shane Wright. That cost was carried. Because granted, I don't remember if he spent 2 years and then 2 years, so he spent four. I don't remember, so I apologize if
Yeah.
Shane is listening to this.
Well,
But what
but
I
okay, so
do
but
know
so
is
he
he
we
was
do know that
incar
he spent between 2 and 5 years in jail.
I know he spent at least 2 years in jail.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way, because I don't remember how soon after they decided to make the formal charge, how long before he got out. But what I am saying is, right or wrong, moral or not, doesn't matter what side of the fence you stand on this. There is a very definitive question here. Did the system fail him? A very definitive question here on is, and I'm not going to get in this debate. Don't start me on this one because there's people out there that are going to sit on both sides of this equation. Is mercy killing right or wrong? Um, because that'll spark a huge debate. That you've got Dr. Kevorkian, who was doing mercy killings. There's a I don't remember if I've covered her or if I've got her in my list, but there's a famous case about a nurse or a doctor. Anyway, killed like 100 people,
Hmm.
but
An angel of death. I think that's what
it,
they normally call
angel of
them.
death. I think that's actually what they call him. But yes, an angel of death. Is that right or wrong? And that's kind of where this morally complex debate is. Is that morally right or wrong? Because on one side of the equation, and this fits into your age-old argument, Zig, when you talk about if the state executes someone, then we have legalized murder. Now, if you do a mercy killing,
Is that legalized murder as well?
is that legalized murder? Right.
Yeah.
And that's where it, that's,
Is suicide legalized murder? Not that I'm
well,
advocating for it,
well,
but you know,
strangely enough, suicide is actually against the law.
it is.
But you can't, there's nobody prosecute, which is,
Yeah.
it, I dealt with this years ago in one of my criminal justice classes. And we talked about this specifically, and we talked about another one. Is something actually a law if there's no consequence to the law? And that's where you get into the moral weird box
Yeah.
because we were talking about that. There's things in Texas law that have no consequence if you break that law.
Yeah.
So is it really a law?
Yeah.
It's a weird one. Um,
Carrying fencing pliers in the back of your pocket. No
carrying
one
wire
gets prosecuted
wire
for
clippers,
that.
carrying
That
wire
used to be
clippers,
a felony.
carrying wire clippers in your saddlebag, still
Yeah.
illegal in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
I
People
believe
do it
it's
all the time. No one gets busted for it.
I believe it's Fort Worth that there's still a law in the books that says you can't spit on the sidewalk.
Nope.
And you have to
No, you can't.
understand that
Yes, I believe you are correct. No, you
yes.
cannot spit on the sidewalk, but no one gets
Um,
called out for it.
no, well, because the whole justification for that law is when a lot of people chewed tobacco in their mouth and they
Uh-huh.
spit this nasty shit on the ground
Yeah.
for people to step on. And so
Yeah,
that
they were
was
already
the
on the sidewalk to avoid the horse shit. That's how long ago
exactly.
this was.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I thought this episode was very interesting to talk about because it does bring up a very complex moral dilemma.
Hmm.
Um, I'll return to the A to Z series. The whole structure of that's going to continue. But I really wanted to put this episode out here because it stands apart as a very stark reminder that some stories just don't belong on a map. They really belong
Yeah.
in the questions we're willing to keep asking.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
Thank you, sir.
That's the story of Shane Paul Wright.
I appreciate that.
You bet. You bet. We don't always agree. We don't always
Yeah.
disagree. We do always agree that I'm right and you're wrong. So we just continue
We
on.
always agree that you're right because that's your last name.
You know,
We also
Zig,
agree that I'm courteous because
yes,
that's my last name.
Zig's heard this for years because we've worked together for years. I am actually kind of well known for this now. When I say something that's incorrect at work, my follow up to that is I'm allowed one wrong one a year.
Yeah,
So I can do 10 of those, and they're all the only one I did that year. So
that's right.
anyway,
That's right.
thanks.
He's up to year 3987, by the way,
Pretty
kids.
much, probably pretty much. But anyway, so, thanks for sitting through me with that.
Sure.
I know some of this I kind of got on my soapbox with it, but and I strayed away from the series I started. Um, but the more I read about it, I really thought Shane Case deserves some more light.
Yeah,
Um, and
it
and
sounds
I'm
like it is
and I'm glad he talked me out of my first iteration of that episode.
yeah, because it was
Um,
apparently it was all bullshit.
well, it was just very clinical. It was very,
Yeah,
very clinical. It wasn't all bullshit. It just wasn't as accurate as it should have been,
right on.
because I followed strict news sources and whatnot. So I'm really glad that I did get to talk to Shane. I hope he listened and I hope he gave it some justice. But yeah, that there is the end of my part of the episode for today, and that is the end of our show for today. You can find more about us on nerderymurder.com, our hub, our website. You'll find more information about us and various links, but you will definitely find the link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often update.
Yeah, go check out that YouTube page because it's got the opening for or that playlist. It's got the opening for the Outer Limits plus um scenes from each one of those episodes.
Great, fantastic. Appreciate all the work you do on that.
Thank you, sir.
You can also find the link to our merchandise page if you wish to show off your nerdery and murdery fandom. Please do consider something from there. And let's admit it, you look damn good in it.
Damn good.
Damn good. You can also find the link to our Patreon if you wish to become a patron and help us with the costs that are associated with this show. That, along with our merchandise, do help out because there is cost for our uploads, our storage, our website, everything that goes along with this. It's not cheap, it's not free to bring you these topics every single week. So we do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Another thing you can do that's completely free, it only takes a couple minutes of your time, if that, is leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us, really helps others find our content, looking for the information we discuss. And last but certainly not least, to our good friend Chuck, you can go sleep now.
Good night, Chad.
Good night, Chuck. With that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.